share their real personal stories, and I think that's the thing that ultimately helps. Well, this gentleman his name is Simon Bourne, and Simon's from County Durham, and he's the man behind the hand-dyed shoe company. Now, a few years ago, his business was doing really, really well, but all of a sudden, everything came to a stop with the pandemic, and he had to declare himself bankrupt during COVID, and his mental health plummeted. Fast forward, he's now releasing a book called Sold Out: Bankruptcy, My Greatest Achievement. And he's basically saying he had to get to the very bottom to then make his way back up again. And Simon's been chatting to me about his journey, and also about how the business first got started.
The business was born on the back of a job that I had working for a furniture company, and we had lots of scrap leather, and I used to take it home, initially make little key rings, little wallets, little just anything, bookmarks, that type of thing, mobile phone holders. And then that evolution into shoes came probably around 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, because I was like obsessed with a company called Beluti, which is a huge shoe brand, £3,000 for a pair of shoes, like, insane.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with just looking at them, really. I could never afford them. And I was like, well, we've got leather, and we have the skill to dye shoes or dye leather. And so all we need to find is a shoemaker to make the shoes, and ultimately that's where it came from. And it was going well at that point.
It
was going fantastic, yeah, absolutely amazing. 2019, in fact, was, I can quite safely say, it was the greatest year of my life. It was absolutely insane, the things that were going on. I won a national competition with Klarna, which is a major bank. People know Klarna, I think. I won £10,000 of investment. That was a big campaign that they were running to find the next big thing in retail. So successful with that. Huge night out down in London with all these celebrities.
Fancy.
Yeah, it was amazing. Me and my wife went down, and it was incredible. I won Northeast Newcomer of the Year at the Northeast Business Awards, which was amazing. I was nominated for all sorts of other awards for the FSB, and the real creme de la creme was appearing on Dragon's Den. So obviously in the summer of 19, I filmed that. And then it aired sort of early 2020. In fact, it was the 3rd of March. So it was 20 days before the pandemic, or the first lockdown. So yeah, I was very much riding the crest of a wave, and it was incredible. I was happy. I was just flying by the seat of my pants, I think they say.
So everything's going well in 2019, amazing. And then, of course, lockdown happens. Yeah. And what happens to what should be a brilliant company? What starts to happen? We were largely a face-to-face business, and I should say still are. The business still exists today. So we're a face-to-face business. I've very much built the business around the experience, the face-to-face experience. So making an appointment, coming in, getting wined and dined, looked after, measuring your feet, guiding you through the process, and designing your own pair of unique handmade shoes. And the shoes, could it be for ladies and gents, or just
ladies and gents?
Whoever wants to. Yeah.
Whoever wanted them. Yeah.
A nice Mary Jane. That's one of my favourite shoes. God,
I love a Mary Jane. Wow, who doesn't? So I built that whole experience and put all of our marketing efforts and invested heavily. I took a huge loan in early 2020, so just at the turn of the year, to invest and to grow on the back of Dragon's Den and everything. And then obviously the pandemic came, and subsequently that loan then just became essentially survival. So it was just paying wages, just keeping things ticking, because we just need another month before this pandemic's over, and then everything's going to be back to normal. And of course it just rumbled on, and eventually we ran out of money, and my mental health fell apart. And
how did that manifest itself?
Yeah, it was horrific. It was it's still going on today. Even I'm still very much in recovery from it all. I think I think people are. Yeah, I'm able to talk about it now, and I'm very open about it, and my story is very much public. Like I purposely do that to help me cope with it, to help me to just sort of accept it and to own it. It makes me feel like I'm doing something good with it, rather than just boxing it up and just, oh well, let's move on. No, let's use it for something powerful and good. But yeah, it manifested itself in all manner of ways, from suicidal thoughts, and when I say suicidal thoughts, like it was bad, it was deep. Just as recently as the tragic case of Nicola Bulley, that affected me so much, and it just I felt like that was my life, hearing her story, and that could be me. And these things are just your mind goes to all sorts of crazy
dark places
that are just unexplainable when you've got a loving family around you. I've got a beautiful wife, I've got 2 gorgeous kids who need me and depend on me and love me dearly, and yet I couldn't. There's been so many times since the demise of the business where I've been unable to function, and so it's manifested itself in lots of really ugly ways.
And yet now, as you said, sharing your story, I think that does bring some solace, because hopefully in sharing our vulnerabilities and sharing stories, and quite personally as well, because I think a lot of people, and I say this all the time on this show, is that we talk about getting rid of the stigma of mental health a lot. What we don't do is share our personal stories, and that is the thing that really gets rid of stigma. So by sharing your story, hopefully you're going to do good to others, but also by looking outwards and not inwards, that makes you feel better.
100%, yeah. So like I said before, me talking about this stuff, all this stuff publicly, it really does make me just feel normal. And the amount of people who then, I had a man recently who approached me, and having seen my story, and told me that he was a cocaine addict, he'd been through depression, he overdosed, and the only people that knew about this was his family. And he said, I admire you so much by being able to talk about it the way you do. I could never do that. And I stopped him there and I said, yes, you could, because you just did.
Yeah.
You've just told me. And just because you don't want to put it on Facebook and tell the world doesn't mean that you're not able to talk about it externally and to own it, you know what I mean? So in that very moment, for me, I felt like he owned his demons, and he'd vocalised it to somebody who was a relative stranger, and I think that's the powerful thing.
He's great, isn't he, Simon? More on the way from Simon very shortly, and why putting pen to paper and getting his book published has actually saved him. Also, the big important things, and we're talking today to a brilliant bloke called Simon Bourne, who's from County Durham, and he's the man behind the hand-dyed shoe company. His business was going great. Lockdown came, everything, went disastrously wrong during lockdown for him. His mental health plummeted to a very low place. Fast forward, he's now releasing a book called Sold Out: Bankruptcy, My Greatest Achievement. And he's saying he had to get to the very bottom to make it back up again. So I asked him why it was that he put pen to paper.
I've always had an aspiration to potentially write a book maybe one day. I love to write, I love to be creative in any way.
That's a good helper as well with mental health.
Absolutely, yeah, with mental health. It's a sort of a well-known thing, isn't it? And it was my GP, it was my doctor that said, start, maybe you should write down some of these thoughts and these feelings that you're having, and sort of revisit them in a week or two, and sort of see, are you still feeling that? And it was very much part of a therapy, I guess. And so I started to do that. I started to write, and almost rather like I could talk, I could write in the same manner. So the minute I started to write, it just started to flow.
Prolific.
It just started to flow out of us, and almost like then as I was reading it back, it then became therapy for myself, and I was like, this is really like I can't believe that was me feeling those feelings, and considering those things. So it then just manifested, like you say, into this story, which I've called Sold Out,
as in the shoe,
SOLED, out, and Bankruptcy, My Greatest Achievement, which is, that was one of the consequences of the collapse of my business, was that I had to declare myself bankrupt, which is not easy to say. People hide away. You get put on a register like you're a sex offender. Do you know what I mean?
It's uncomfortable
the insolvency register. Your name will be published on the insolvency register. So I wanted to write this book to help other people, to help myself first and foremost, to help other people. One of the massive motivations for me was my children. So they will go through hardship in their life. That is normal. Divorce, addictions, losing a job, being fired. Who knows what their future lies for them. But at some point, I want them to be able to understand what Dad went through. And when they do understand that, hopefully where Dad is at that point is a far stronger place. And
that there's hope,
so important.
And resilience.
There's hope. So suicidal thoughts, depression, stress, anxiety, these things come in life, and it's a real tragedy that they do, but it's a fact they do come. So if I can get through it, and if I can produce a book that helps other people with that, then the whole episode that I've been through, it was worth it. There was a purpose to it. It's not just sweep it under the carpet, move on, and then it'll rear its ugly head again in the future. I know I can cope with this. I know I can get through it and go on to better things.
And that's brilliant news. And in terms of where you're at now and what's helped you, let's just talk about some of those practical things, because you and I shared that we're both ornithologists. We both love bird watching. So trendy. I do love going to gigs and very sexy things like that too, but I also love bird watching just as much.
Bird watching, yeah. Gardening.
God, I love my garden.
I absolutely love my garden. My garden has just become my absolute peaceful place. Growing vegetables.
What's your favourite flower that you grow?
Oh God! Well, the bluebells are out at the moment, and I've planted loads of bluebells in the I think it was December time. So they're all out. So I love the sort of woodland flowers and the sort of natural plants like your ferns and things like that.
Yeah.
But then obviously all your sweet peas and your lovely things like that.
Yeah, they just started. My sweet peas have just started.
There's so many to choose from. But I'm now a subscriber for Gardener's World. Little plug there.
Yeah, I go onto the RHS website and like, what's happened to you, Anna?
If somebody had told me that, like, even like 2 years ago, when I'm like, I'm so ambitious and I'm gunning for glory with the business, and I'm absolutely like riding the crest of a wave, that in 2 years' time you will be a subscriber for Gardener's World and you like to plant potatoes.
I think that's so good.
And watch birds. Like, that is just, for me, it's just absolute nuts.
Do you talk to your plants? Because I talk to my flowers.
Oh my word, this is therapy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Like, you can't help it. You go out and you're just like, oh, you're coming along nice.
Yes, you do.
And like, I popped in the greenhouse this morning before I came here, and the tomatoes, and they've grown a good 2 inches since I was last in there, and I'm almost complimenting them, like,
I do,
patting them on the head.
Aren't you doing well? Look at you. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to get you a little bit of food. Come on. Well, it works, doesn't it?
Well, this is it.
So nature's been really big for you,
massive.
and exercise and just sort of going out on walks and things.
So I have lots of walking, and I signed up to an amazing organisation called Man vs Fat Football. I'm absolutely like obsessed with it, to the point of it's an incredible group of people. It's lots of lads that are slightly overweight who want to play football but perhaps are past their best.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's a great organisation. So I'm part of that now every week. So I play religiously every week, whether my mental health is good or bad. I make sure that I turn up for that.
Yeah. For other people as well, for the team.
Yeah, to help exactly that, for the team and for myself, and to make sure it's become like I have to go. So it's rather like, I guess, a gambler having to go to GA, or an alcoholic having to go to AA. Like, this for me is like, I've got to go there because that is for my mental health, and if I don't do that, then it suffers. So I
think a lot of people are like that with walking, and if they're not, I urge anybody to do the walking, because it will make you feel
fresh
better.
Air. There's something about fresh air and the smell of grass. And look, the science in it. I'm not big on the science, but there is.
There's massive science to do with exercise.
The sunshine, vitamin D, things like that. And the other thing, obviously, is really, everyone says talk, but talk to your GP, talk to your family, talk to your friends. That's where I started, and then I started to talk to strangers, and then I started to talk to clients, customers. And now I'm here on a radio show, I'll talk to anybody about this stuff, because it's so important that we do talk about it. And ultimately that those are the reasons why we get better.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So if people want to find you, Simon, they want to find the book, they want to find more about you and follow you, can they find your journey?
They can, yeah, of course, yeah. So handdiedshewco.com, you can find the business there, and there's a link on the top there if you wanted to pre-order the book. The release date is set for mid-September. Any pre-sales will receive a signed copy. So I'm doing that as a thank you for anybody who wants to support the book and support the project.
Great.
I'm really, really proud of it. I can't wait for it to be released and to have it in my hand and have that piece of substance that the journey was worth it for this, and that's, why it's my greatest achievement.
Brilliant work, Simon. Thank you for coming and chatting to us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
What a great bloke. Really enjoyed meeting Simon Bourne from the Hand-Dyed Shoe Company, and he's written his brand new book, Sold Out Bankruptcy, My Greatest Achievement, and talks so candidly about mental health, and I think coming up with practical solutions, and that's kind of what I'm all about, really. Not just talking about it, but saying, right, how can we make ourselves feel better? What are the things that we can do to practically kind of share, and ideas that we can pull together to make us collectively feel a bit better. So Simon, thank you so much for coming in. Absolutely lovely chatting to you, and best of luck with the book. I'm sure we'll chat again soon.